boogie, woogie, woogie, bang, 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 bang.
Cute FM.
FM 89.9 WQTQ FM in Hartford. We are back and we have the legendary, the great scholar, the King Kong of consciousness himself, Mr. Dr. UMAR Johnson. Are you still there, good brother?
Yes, sir. I'm right here, brothers and brother and sister.
All right. So we talked about a lot really quick in the 5 minutes we had during our commercial break there. So Dr. Umar, we were talking about schools in general, and we were talking about, you know, some of the naysayers will say, well, hey, LeBron James started a school. Why hasn't Dr. Umar Johnson started his school? Would you like to clear the air on those types of comments?
Certainly. Well, first of all, LeBron James is very much on his way to becoming a billionaire. Mm-hmm. So if he wanted to open up his own school, I'm sure he could do it in probably half the time that Dr. Umar Johnson would be able to do so. But at the same time, even if a billionaire wants to open a school, it can take years to get it up and running. Right. Let's look at Oprah Winfrey's School for Girls that she has in South Africa. Now, Oprah Winfrey is the wealthiest African-American in the country and one of the richest people in the world. And it took her several years, with all the money up front, several years to get her school up and running. Mm-hmm. So anyone who thinks you can just snap your fingers and open a school doesn't understand education, and they definitely don't understand commercial real estate. And as it relates to LeBron James, LeBron doesn't have a school. LeBron James partnered with the Akron Public School District to open up the LeBron James charter school or public school that they have. And the charter school is a public school. I'm not sure if it's a regular public or a charter public, but it's not a private school. It's not an independent school. It is an Akron public school. That is a fact. LeBron James simply is allowing them to use his name, and he's going to provide incentives for the students who go there, incentives that I can really appreciate, such as paying for them to go to college so they don't fall into student loan debt, also willing to pay for their parents to go to college, and some other incentives. So I appreciate what LeBron is doing. I have no issue with it, but it is not his school. It is a Akron public school. Jalen Rose has a charter school. Sean Puffy Combs has a charter school. And to be honest with you, the one issue I do take with those brothers, I'm not understanding why black millionaires are opening up charter schools.
Right.
If you have the money to own and control your destiny, why are you taking money from the public school district, which prevents you from having the say? A charter school is state property.
Yes.
A charter school is state property. It is not yours. So for me, if I were a millionaire, I would be looking to open up an independent school. We should have the Sean Puffy Combs Independent School for Performing Arts, the LeBron James Independent School, you know, for athletic talent, the Jalen Rose Independent School for broadcasting. I don't understand why black millionaires are opening up charter schools.
So, Dr. Umar, what does this mean? How does this differ for you with the school that you're... What are some of the differences from the charter school perspective, state-owned charter school perspective, as opposed to the public school, to your school, which will be an independent school? What are some of the differences educationally and otherwise?
Well, you look at the 5 major types of schools. You have charter, you have public, you have independent, you have private, and you have parochial. Mm-hmm. Now, the public school is publicly funded, taxpayers. The charter school is also publicly funded, taxpayers. But the charter school founders are allowed to innovate. They're allowed to change. They're given room by the state to radically alter the way things have been done in an effort to maximize outcomes. But because you're chartered, the state is still going to watch you and supervise you, because if you don't demonstrate that your methods are any better than ours, we're going to take your charter back, shut you down, and bring those kids back over to the public school.
So, before you continue, does that mean that curriculum-wise, they don't have control over their curriculum as a charter school, or do they have?
They have the privilege of creating their curriculum, which still must meet state grade level standards, though. So if I open up a charter school in New Haven or Hartford or Hamden, I can create my own curriculum, but that curriculum must still meet the Connecticut state guidelines for the grades that I'm going to be having. So when you submit your charter school application, your curriculum is in there. And the school district is going to look at your curriculum, the local school district. They're going to look at your curriculum, the school board, and they're going to say, okay, we don't like this math. You got to make this better. We don't like this language arts. You're missing a couple things. So, yes, it is yours, but it is subject to their approval, which means that although it's yours, they're going to make you change it to meet their taste.
Okay, thank you. And then you were talking about the other three systems.
The other three, parochial, private, and independent. Parochial school is religious, a religious-based academy, which could be public or private. Or let me take that back, which could receive some public funding, because as a parochial school, you can have a religious public school, but you do have parochial schools, private religious academies, who do receive some sort of public funding. They may get the after-school grant money. They might have their lunch program subsidized by the state. So you do have private parochial schools who do get some degree of public funding, and then some people would argue whether or not that's a violation of the constitutional requirement of separation of church and state. And then you have your private and independent. The only thing different between private and independent, neither one of them get public funding, by the way. Neither one of them are publicly funded, but the private school tends to be operated by corporate or private funding. So it's not taxpayers paying for it, but it may be Walmart. It may be McDonald's. For example, you have the Bill and Melinda Gates schools, the Microsoft schools. That would be an example of a private school. It is not publicly funded. It is funded by a private entity, Bill Gates, and it is his school. If McDonald's open up a school, that's private. Walmart, that's private funding. And then you have independent, which is what FDMG will be. You don't get money from public sources, which is tax dollars, and you don't get money from private sources. So there's no Mercedes-Benz, there's no Walmart, there's no Bank of America, there's no Rockefeller Foundation. An independent school is truly independent in that they don't get subsidized by public sources or private sources, other than black people.
And now, how does the curriculum differ within the last three that you mentioned?
Well, you're required in all 5 school models, you're required to have your basic subjects of language arts, your science, your history, your math. You're required to do that. You're required to operate a certain number of days per year, usually about 180. So there's still some structures you're going to have to follow. But with regard to your curriculum and things like that, you're given a lot more freedom because you're not accepting public dollars. So you can't violate nobody's constitutional rights. You know, you can't discriminate against people, you know, things like that. But outside of that, an independent school operates like an independent country.
Okay, cool. So now let's talk about your school specifically. What are some of the things that you want to highlight that people should know about the school and the differences, as you've talked about, that relate to your school and how you're going to do things? Even and the last time we spoke, we talked about how you hire people, what some of your criteria will be, but the reasoning behind your criteria, I think, is important as well.
Well, at present, and by the way, anyone who wants to work or volunteer at the school can send their resume to FDMG resumes with an S at gmail.com, and it should include a cover letter and a photo of themselves. Now, for sisters, they may be reluctant to send in the photo with the weave and the perm, but it's okay, ladies. Y'all can send it in now, but if you get hired, all that has to come off.
Why?
Now.
Why?
And it has to come off because this is a revolutionary Pan-African nationalist academy. We are very much about self-love, self-determination, and we are very much about manifesting in the most abundant fashion our organic selves as the Creator made us. So there's no way I can function as a Pan-African school and I'm allowing my teachers to emulate white females. That is a contradiction. If I'm teaching black power, that means I'm teaching black love. And if I'm doing that, that means I must stand on a platform of being unapologetically African, which would make it a total contradiction as a Creite and a Pan-Africanist to allow my teachers to look like white women while claiming to be proud to be black.
Okay, I'm going to be a little controversial right now. What about the black women that have straight hair, or, you know, they have certain, the native or Indian, but they're black, and they have straight hair? What about?
Well, first of all, fine hair is not a Native American thing. It's an African thing. I can take you to certain countries on the continent where the sisters have fine hair.
Yes.
So just because you have fine hair don't mean you have Native American in your blood. And even if you have Native American in your blood, it doesn't mean your hair is due to that. It could very well be due to your African ancestry. So with that being said, the requirement is for you to be natural.
Okay.
The requirement is not for you to be nappy, but you must be natural. You must have what God gave you. That's the requirement. There's some black people who have red hair.
Right.
Guess what? If it is naturally so, then so
Let it
be
be.
it. The issue is about being authentically and unapologetically African. That's what we're looking at. You know, not whether your hair is nappy or straight, but whether or not it is authentically yours.
Thank you for clearing that up. So, in terms of your curriculum and the things that you're going to be teaching, can you talk about that?
Well, let me finish that first piece on
sorry.
the interview side. So we have about 3,000 resumes. So what's going to happen is going to be 3 rounds of interviews. Well, first of all, the team is going to go through the entire pool of resumes. We're going to select out the ones we think are most, come closest to what we're looking for. And then that will be a video interview. And then there will be a second round of video interviews. And then the third and final interview, you must come to FDMG, fly to Philadelphia International Airport or drive to Wilmington, Delaware, okay, and do that in-person interview. That's how we would do the selecting. And in addition, just like any school, you got to do your background checks, your criminal, your FBI, your state child abuse. But there will be an additional check for us because we are a Garveyite Academy, so there will be a coon investigation into your background to make sure you are truly unapologetically African.
That's right.
And not some coon who's trying to act black so they can get a job at Dr. UMAR School. And I'm very serious about that. We're going to ask people about you, where you live, where you work at, your religion, your fraternities, everything you into, your church, whether you got white Jesus, what are you into, you dated white girls. We got to find out who you are because our teachers are role models for our young people, and we need to make sure we're putting the right folks in front of them. Now, with regard to the curriculum, FDMG, in addition to the 5 essential subject areas that you're required by state law to have, we will also have an economic and financial curriculum because we want to make sure our young men understand the laws of money and how to build wealth, and to make sure they understand that if you go to college, nothing's wrong with that, because if you want to go to college, you can, and we will support you, but you don't have to go to college to become wealthy. And the lie that America has sold to black youth is that you have to go to college to become wealthy. In fact, going to college can actually lead to you becoming quite unwealthy if you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
But we need doctors and lawyers and engineers and psychologists and educators, and in order to get that, you still need a class of African children who will go to college. Otherwise, we won't have a black professional class, and we don't want that. So we support college, but we totally disagree with anybody who believes college should be an automatic rite of passage for any black high school graduate. That's a problem. So we will also teach political and military science. So that is African self-defense, okay, with weapons. That's the military science. And then we will teach them the art of war without weapons. That's the political science. Why do white people rule the planet? And they're the smallest group on the earth, but they totally control it. How did that happen, and how was it maintained? Why was Barack Obama made president? Was it because America was changing its old ways? Why is Africa the richest continent in the world, but yet the people are in the poorest condition? We want to make sure they understand the world they live in, because as black people, we are very keen about reclaiming our history. Understandably so, because it was taken from us. But what good is knowing your history if you don't understand the world you live in today? Right. So the political and military science curriculum is going to be very, very critical to what we do, and I am going to be that teacher. I'm the political and military science teacher. There will also be agricultural and agronomical science. We're going to buy some farmland in Delaware so our young men can learn how to dig up the ground and make their own food, grow their own crops. We're going to have a George Washington Carver Academy where all of our young men will know the art of procuring your own food crop.
That's
and
awesome.
Then we will have a dietary and nutritional curriculum which teach them how to cook and how to prepare the crops that they grew into a tasty, wholesome, nutritious meal for their family. And then there will also be spiritual and astrological science. We want to teach them all of the great, rich spiritual traditions from the African continent. The school will be based on Ifa. So the spiritual system of the Yoruba out of Nigeria will be the foundational system because that's the one that I belong to. So Ifa will be our foundation, but then we will learn the Neteru system out of Kemet. We will learn the Akan system, the Dogon, and we will also introduce them to a lot of contemporary Black religious ideologies like the Nation of Islam or the Gods and Earths, the Nawapians, the Black Hebrews. Although we may not agree with them politically, we want our children to understand everyone because the central theme of FDMG is leadership and nation building. How are you going to lead people towards building a nation if you don't understand people? So we're not going to shun any of the Black philosophies that exist. We want our children to understand them all. And then the last curriculum, we mentioned political and military, economic and financial, the spiritual, the dietary, the nutritious. Which one am I leaving out? I'm leaving one out. Military and political, financial and economic, spiritual and cosmological, dietary and nutrition, agricultural, agronomical, and did I mention political and the spiritual and astrological? We might have did all six.
Yeah, I think you did.
Might have did. Okay, we did all six. Okay. So those will be the 6 cornerstones. And then on top of that, the curriculum continues to extend because we want every child at the school to speak African language.
And like you said, there's also going to be the basics, math, science, reading, writing, arithmetic, and all that stuff.
That's required. That goes without saying. Briefly, just to let your parents know all of the training locations, if for whatever reason they can't be in New Haven on April 11th, and I really can't think of a good excuse as to why they shouldn't, but to let them know we will be in White Plains, New York this Saturday, February the 29th. We will be in Newark, New Jersey the very next day for our only Sunday Black parent training, and that is at the Source of Knowledge bookstore, Sunday, March the 1st, and then we are off to Long Beach, California, March the 7th, and then Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, March the 21st, Charlotte, North Carolina, March the 28th, New Haven, Connecticut, April 11th, Ocean Springs, Mississippi, April the 18th, Dallas, Texas, May the 2nd, Minneapolis, Minnesota, June the 27th, August the 15th, Indianapolis, Indiana. We also have Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, June the 6th, Sanford, Florida, September 5th, Chicago, Illinois, September 15th. You can go to any training you want. You are not limited to the training in your state.
All right. And Dr. Umar, as you travel so much, I'm kind of like sometimes envious. Like, I wish I could visit all these cities, man. You get to see it all. But I know you are tired, man. And I hope you are keeping your energy up because you are doing a lot of work. And I sit back from afar when I'm checking in on things. And I'm just like, Dr. Umar had to be God sent to be traveling like this all over the world, educating. You're on our radio show. I know you have other things you could be doing. How do you do it? Who's watching your institution when you step away from it? Is it because you know you got the idiots and the bastards out there. So who's watching your institution when you step away?
Got you. There's some brothers and sisters down there in Wilmington who keep an eye on the school. I have some who live right across the street from the school, around the corner from the school. Thank God the Boys and Girls Club of Wilmington is right around the corner, and I have some of the employees there. They're supporters of the school, and some of them are supporters of Dr. Umar Johnson. They also keep watch, so I do have a lot of eyes and ears on that block because what I love most about the school is we're the only thing on the block. It's 4 buildings. It's a small campus. We don't share that particular block with anyone else, so that's a good thing once we get up and running. But as you know, that could be a bad thing while you close because mischievous things can take place on that block since no one else is on there at this time. You know, so I do got people keeping a close eye. And going back to the donation piece again, we do need people to donate because I'm telling you, our Newcastle County tax bill was like $150,000. We didn't already pay $45,000, but it's taken a lot of money out of the renovation fees. Just to pull the permits to get the plumbing done is money. You got to pay a couple $100 to get the electrical permit to do the electric work again. And then I'm still trying to negotiate with these plumbers and roofers and electricians and HVAC specialists and carpenters and sprinkler system and fire alarm people to give me the best price possible so we can get all this stuff done. So this takes money. So as you said, when people keep saying, where's the school? I'm like, where's the donation so we can get the school done?
Right. This ain't no walk in the park.
Not only that, but where's our community? Back in the day, there were people who would just donate their time, their services, their resources. Sometimes it may not necessarily, I'm not saying it's not about money, y'all. Don't get me wrong. But there is time, you have resources, you have know-how, you have skill, you have ability, and you're in the area, and there's no reason why you can't possibly donate something like that.
I totally agree with you. In fact, I'm disappointed at all those black men and women who are commercial plumbers, commercial HVAC, commercial electric, commercial carpentry, commercial sprinkler system, commercial fire alarm companies who promised me that once I got to school, they would be coming to volunteer their services free of charge as long as I would pay for all of the materials. Not one of them have showed up yet. Not one. Remember, you kept hearing all those people say, once he got to school, I'm going to come and do the electric. Once he gets to school, I'm going to come and do the plumbing. Not a single person across the country has stepped up and volunteered to do any of the work for free.
Damn.
Let me tell you people something. There is something about the law of reciprocity and give and receive. That's all I'm going to say. Look it up. If you do something for someone, don't do something expecting something back. But the things happen. Great things happen when you give of yourself, when you give of your time, when you volunteer, when you allow something of yourself to be given freely. The blessings that you get back are enormous, enormous.
And I just want to say, with that being said, because there's something fun that you're about to do that I think is really cool. But before I jump into that, because I think we're talking about these type of people who say one thing and do the other, I am just going to go ahead and say it because I know I kind of doctored it up when I said it over the air. But Dr. Umar, this kind of segues into this idea that we have something rooted in us. And this is a European conscience. And one way that you put it was that we have to uproot the European out of us so that the African in us can survive. Is there anything else that you can expound on with that right there, with that thought, that thinking pattern to help wake some of our brothers and sisters up out of this nightmare?
And why you said it.
Here's why it's so difficult to uproot the European consciousness out of the African psyche. Because the conditioning process, whether you're making a slave or whether you're making anything, the conditioning process is not merely about learning a new way of doing something. The conditioning process is about indoctrinating and conditioning that new way of being and thinking and acting and feeling so deeply into your person that it is almost inseparable from you. So you think that to kill it or remove it is to kill your own self. And so the making of the slave was a ritualistic process. It was not done through book study. It was not done through classroom learning. They didn't bring slaves into the class and say, sit down, and we're going to teach you how to be a slave. They put you through the ritual of making you a slave. And we have to understand that we're going to have to undo that consciousness the same way that it was done. We have to put our people through a ritualistic process that trains them on how to think like an African again. That's almost impossible to do with adults because we do not have control over the behavior of adults. The only people we have control over are the children.
Yes.
And that's where we must start because children are totally dependent on adults for their livelihood. And as a result of that, that gives us the power, the authority, and the influence to grow the children in the way we need them to be. There's an African proverb that says, you know that God has not given up on us yet every time you see a new baby born.
That's beautiful.
I like that.
That is beautiful.
And then I'll tell you, Dr. Umar, when I was over in Africa, the European conscious or psyche is deep over there too.
Oh, absolutely.
I was shocked.
White Jesus is everywhere.
In Ghana, white Jesus was everywhere.
People, you get shocked because it's like I'm going to Africa to find out who I am, and I find a white man as much over here as he was here. Because we have to understand something. As soon as slavery ended, the European went straight to Africa and colonized it for resources.
Yes.
So even though he was over there stealing humans, he had not yet come up with the idea to permanently plant himself there and start raping the resources and the minerals and subjugating the people in Africa. Colonialism is nothing but in Africa. That's all it is.
Yes.
What is the difference between colonialism in Africa and slavery in the West? Nothing. They literally came into our nations and forced us to work for free in Africa. And if you didn't do it or didn't do it well enough, they cut your hands off, cut breasts off, cut off the private parts of women and men. It was brutal.
Yeah.
It was as brutal as slavery was. So when you go over there, keep in mind, Africa didn't get its independence until 1957, beginning with Ghana. South Africa didn't get its independence until, 2004? So you're talking about 50 years of independent struggle. We've been out of slavery for 150. They've only been out of colonialism for 50.
And now, as we're talking about Black history, there's something that happened to me at work, Dr. Umar, and I want to get your opinion on this. I could have responded, but I was on the move when this Caucasian fellow said this to me. He said, well, your African people sold you all into slavery. And I do believe that there is some truth to that, but is there a deeper history that you know about that you can share with us as it relates, because we're in Black History Month, and I just want to get some of the history right with this. I do know that we were involved in it, but I'm sure that there's a deeper context as to how we got into chattel slavery.
Yes, there were some Africans who participated in the slave trade. Generally speaking, when there were wars on the continent, when you lost the war, or those who became prisoners of war, or those who were in debt, and were debtor slaves, they were then sold to the European as a consequence of war and as a consequence of debt, and sometimes as a consequence of crime. That is true. But the African participation in the slave trade doesn't even begin to compare to the European participation in the slave trade. The enslavement of African people was a European enterprise. It was not an African enterprise. They try to make you think that this was an African thing and that they set up the shop of selling their own and the Europeans just came to buy. They just showed up and bought. In other words, you just built a big Walmart of African people and sold them to whoever showed up. That's not true. It was the Europeans who engineered the slave trade and the slave system. And if Africans were totally and exclusively responsible for this, why did the Europeans have to show up with guns?
Right.
Why did they have to bring militias to raid African communities and African villages? If we're selling our own people voluntarily, you don't need any weapons for that. They needed weapons because it was the gun. It was the gun that gave the European the ability to subjugate entire villages and communities and force us into slavery. We were forced into slavery more than we were sold into slavery.
Wasn't it the Arabic? Weren't it the Arabs that?
They were first. The Arabs were first. They were involved in slavery before the European even came to the continent.
Right.
The Arabs were the first enslavers of Africans, and they were the last enslavers of Africans because they're still enslaving us right now on the East Coast.
Right
in
now.
fact, East Coast of Africa. In fact, I still find myself warning African American women to be very careful about taking jobs in the Middle East, because they will offer you all of this and you fly over there, and before you know it, they done made you a slave. Now, it's a lot tougher to do it to African American and African British and African Canadian women, but it's much easier to do it to Caribbean women, Central South American women, and especially African women on the continent. Many of them go to the Middle Eastern states to earn some money, send it back home, but none of them often end up returning home. The whole thing was a hoax.
All right, so that was the heavy stuff. Black History Month right here. Now, Dr. Umar, I saw that you've been posting some cool stuff, something that really got me excited. You are going to have like a night out where we have single conscious people come together. Do you know how much of a heaven that would be for me, Dr. Umar? I almost shed a tear when I saw you post that right there. Like, thank you. Somebody's going to do it. Because I can't do it out here.
I'm going to do it. People have been asking me for years to do it. I don't know what finally just came over me. And I believe what led to it, to be honest with you. I'm saying to myself that once we get this school up and running, it's going to become the central Black community organizing headquarters in the country and probably in the world, to be quite honest with you, given my following amongst the Pan-Africanists around the globe. And so I'm like, okay, in addition to just helping to fight for the liberation of Africa and fight for black liberation in America, I have to do some more comfortable, familial, community-based initiatives to support the revolutionary activities. And so when I look at it, building families, if we're talking about nations, nations are made of families.
Yes.
It's only right that I help forge some of those families by giving conscious black women and men the opportunity to come into a safe environment, explore one another intellectually and spiritually, and see if maybe or not they could find their soulmate right there at that singles convention.
I would also like to submit during this convention that you offer some emotional health and well-being techniques to men and women individually and collectively, because we are
one of the first conferences we're going to have at the school is the International Black Women's Conference.
Oh.
That's going to be a week-long conference of nothing but women where y'all come together and deal with everything under the sun. And then it will be an International African Men's Conference as well. So those are going to take place at FDMG themselves.
Okay.
But yes, within the framework of that single black conscious men and women's convention, there will be space where we will talk about emotional well-being and emotional health and how to select in, select out, how to properly screen a partner. Then it will be icebreaker activities that allow us to really see what other people at the convention think about and how they think about things. The convention is going to be engineered in such a way that you kind of learn a lot about the people who are there. So you'll be able to do some pre-screen in and pre-screening out just by watching how people respond to certain conversations, certain prompts, okay, and other certain activities that we're going to be doing.
Well, considering that I'm maybe still single, I will be attending.
The biggest problem with the singles convention is how do I keep other married people from sneaking in? That's
No, that's real talk.
Because I've already gotten messages from people talking about, I'm married, but I want to go to the singles convention.
Oh.
No. This is not an infidelity convention.
Yeah.
That's not what this is. This is for people who are truly single. And I'm dead serious. If a married person texts me and says, Dr. Umar, I think my husband or wife is at your convention.
Oh, Lord.
This is their name. This is their face. I promise you, I will get on the microphone and I will blast them in front of the entire audience because that is disrespectful to your husband and disrespectful to your wife.
Mercy.
Instead of being at the singles convention, you should be at the other convention Dr. Umar is going to be doing, and that is the Black Couples Retreat. I'm going to be doing a retreat for black couples. That's where they should be at, not the singles convention.
Well, then, you know what? This is going to allow me to... I'm going to ask the question now that you've brought it up, Dr. Umar. Are you married? And there were rumors...
I have never been married. I have never cohabitated with a woman.
Thank you for that. I know there's a lot of women that I talk to that are just Dr. Umar. Just, they love themselves, some Dr. Umar. Shout out to Africans.
Well, let me say this to them. Okay, I'll do a little self-disclosure here. It's therapeutic. Why haven't I yet been married? First of all, it's largely due to the fact that my traveling, I'm a freedom fighter, so I'm always on the road. I'm always flying around. The life of a organizer is not something that is easy to put up with.
Right.
Anyone who's ever been married to an organizer or a leader of any culture, any race, any ethic will tell you that they're the most difficult people to be married to because you can't have dinner. You can't have breakfast. You spend a lot of time away from them. The people always come first. You're constantly sharing your husband with the world. So my personality type and my mission in life doesn't lend itself easily to marriage. So that's number one.
I'm going to joke with you real quick, Dr. Umar. You better not do a Frederick Douglass on me when you get old.
Yes, no, sir. Not at all. And we just memorialized him a couple of days ago because, he died on February the 20th. Born the 14th, died the 20th. But here's the three issues I've had with women. And I'm just going to be honest, being in the conscious community. Number one, these are not necessarily in order because they're all important. But number one, women tend to think that if they look black and talk black, that is good enough to be my queen. It is not. There is no greater turnoff for Dr. Umar than for a woman to think she doesn't have to be about the work of liberation. Most of the women I have met this 20 years are women who they are intellectually conscious, but they're not practically conscious. They're not involved in anything serious to improve the community, and that's a turnoff. They actually think that they can just show up, be cute, and be on your arm, and that's all it takes to be Miss Prince of Pan-Africanism. Not at all. It's a total turnoff. If you're not involved in nation building, then you and I can't be involved in family building. It's just that simple.
That's right.
Number two, confidentiality. Women love to talk. I get it. But when you're dealing with somebody of a certain stature, you cannot discuss your problems, and you cannot discuss his business with your family and girlfriends. Because if one of them are a hater or is dating a hater, you have now compromised this man's internal security by running your mouth. So confidentiality is number two. And my last one I'll give you is insecurity. I am in the forefront of the people. I'm a school psychologist. 70% of our kids are raised by what? Single mothers.
Yep.
So I'm always around women. And one of the biggest problems I've had with sisters I've dated or courted is they cannot handle the pressure of dating a man who's always around women publicly. They look insecure. They do insecure things. I always have to hear from other women, well, you know, she said this or she did this. I think she thinks I'm interested in you. All I did was have a question about my son. You have to be secure in yourself. Betty Shabazz had to be secure in herself. Winnie Mandela had to be secure in herself. Amy Jakes Garvey, Anna Douglas had to be secure in themselves. You cannot date a confident man and be an insecure woman.
That's right.
And those are the three biggest problems I've had with sisters in the struggle.
Ashe.
All right now.
Well, Dr. Umar, we're here till 9 o'clock. I don't know how much time you have. I'm going to take another quick break.
I'm with you, brother. I'm with you to the 9. 9 is the number of the ancestors.
Ashe. So we're going to ride this out. So I'm going to take a quick break, and we're coming right back. Keep it locked right here. This is 89.9 Cute FM.
Do you need a car loan? Hartford Auto makes it easy to get approved. Hartford Auto has over 1,500 cars, just about every make and model. All you need is proof of employment. The number to call or text Randall is 860-752-5532. With Hartford Auto, no money down loans are available, and we accept your trade-ins. Randall is available for loan approval information with a call or text to 860-752-5532. Hartford Auto makes auto loans possible.
K-Bar 2071 Park Street, Hartford, offers a week of regular and special reasons to visit. Regular social networking and conversation hours are from 4 till 8 p.m. each week. The K-Bar Soul Food Sundays starts the week from 1 till 7 p.m. Main items include catfish, whiting, fried chicken, baked turkey wings, and smothered pork chops. Soul Food Sunday sides are soulful. Warm peach cobbler with vanilla ice cream rounds out your Sunday vibe. Continue with Tito's Tuesday at 7 p.m. and witness karaoke and spoken word. Workout Wednesday is from 4 till 8 p.m. Laugh out loud to open mic p.m. comedy. Enjoy live music Thursdays at 7 p.m. Friday offers 2-for-1 specials and social networking till 8 p.m. SLNS is Saturday late night socializing from 8 p.m. with midnight munchie and libation specials. And every first and third, the K-Bar Saturday brunch runs from 11 a.m. till 4 p.m. Indeed, your regular and special place is K-Bar 2071 Park Street, Hartford.
Step, step, side to side. Oh, yeah. A Step Ahead Productions holds stepping classes each Thursday evening from 6:30 until 8 p.m. in Bloomfield's Elizabeth Restaurant on Park Avenue. Sessions are designed for beginning and for experienced steppers who just want to learn new moves. Then, too, each month on the fourth Sunday, folk are welcome to join a Step Ahead Productions for more Chicago-style step-in. Oh, yeah, indeed. Elizabeth's on Park Avenue, Bloomfield is the place where you can step ahead.
89.9 Chill FM.
Bang bang to the boogie 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 bang bang bang
Cute FM.
bang bang
Cute FM.
bang bang to the boogie woogie boogie bang 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 bang.
Cute FM.
All right, 89.9 WQTQ FM in Hartford. We are still here, everybody, with me, Brother So For Real, my sister Carrie Grace, and we definitely have our brother, the great Dr. Umar Johnson, right here on the telephone with us. He gave us his grace and said that he's going to stay with us until 9 o'clock. So we got him till 9 o'clock. All right, so we're continuing our conversation. So we were still continuing our dialogue about, dating in our community and how difficult it can be, some of the challenges. I know me as a conscious brother, this is a real difficulty for me getting out there. So like I said before we went to the break, I would value Dr. Umar having a space where I can just come in my African attire or think how I want to think, say what I want to say, release my angers and vent and talk the way I just want to just be myself. I don't have to restrict anything or anything like that. So those were some of my concerns, but Dr. Umar shared some of his, issues that he experiences as well, and some possible solutions that you all kind of shared as well of what we could do. So I'll let you take it from here, Sister Carrie, because you had a lot of the questions as it relates to this topic.
Well, when you talk about, we spoke about organizing or being a community leader and dating and the insecurities. How do you, you could combat it by, I'm going to just be by myself. But what when a woman or a man that you're really interested in and they seem to be on a certain level, how do you propose that we come against that type of insecurity? I mean, people have to work on themselves. We know that. But how do you help them to work through that insecurity? How do you help them to feel secure in a sense? Do we have a responsibility to our partners to assure them or reassure them?
We do have a responsibility to our partners to reassure them, but coming from a psychological standpoint, you have to first do your due diligence and explore as to whether or not that insecurity is due to something you are doing. If it's due to something that you are doing or are not doing, then yes, you have a responsibility to help them feel comfortable in the commitment that the two of you share. However, some people are insecure because of what they've been through in life. In other words, insecurity can be, in my opinion, a personality disorder. It is something we developed because our parents made us insecure. Our siblings made us insecure. Our peers made us insecure. Our sports coaches made us insecure. And a lot of us were never really made to feel acceptable just for being who we were. We were only valued for what we can do. And people who come from backgrounds where they were never accepted just for being themselves can often have insecurity issues which have absolutely nothing to do with you. You can reassure them over and over again, and the insecurity will go nowhere because it's not in the reality of the relationship. It is in their imagination. It is a personality disorder.
And I just want to interject really quickly, everybody. Dr. Umar Johnson will be in New Haven, Connecticut, Saturday, April 11th. It's the Black Parent Psychoacademic School Rights Training Conference, which will take place at Bethel AME Church, the most important training ever for Black parents of public and charter school students. You need to be there. It will be located at 255 Gulf Street. That's GOFFE. 255 Gulf Street, 06511. In New Haven, Connecticut. You can call 203-881-6165 for more information. Once again, that number is 203-881-6165. All right. And you can also go to drumarjohnson.com. You can also call 844-4-Dr. Umar. Is that correct, Dr. Umar?
Correct.
All right, so continuing on with the conversation here, I just wanted to change gears again.
I have a question, but it has nothing to do with relationships. Okay.
Did you have another question?
This is nothing to do with relationships.
So, Dr. Umar, as we know that a lot of the ills that occur in our community happen through what we see through a lot of the mediums that are presented to us, whether it's radio, movies, or television in general. I don't know how you feel about this movie because I thought you were going to do a review on it. I couldn't wait if you were going to do it to hear it. But the Harriet movie. Now, I hadn't seen the movie, but I saw
What was
clips.
the name of it again?
Harriet.
Oh, Harriet. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. The that film, I didn't go see it because I just felt that it was historically incorrect from the offset, which I still should see it just to see. But once they told me about this character or this villain in the film, and I saw clips of it, which I knew were historical misnomers, I just felt like, I feel like media is a part of our conditioning right now as well. You got the Lizzos, the Cardi B's, the Tiffany Haddishes. As entertaining as they are actually quite damaging to the community as well. And our movies that are not telling our stories accurately. Do you have a stance on media today and where it is and where it's going, et cetera, et cetera?
Absolutely. Now, I would first of all say that we as African people in America have to recognize that the docudramas that are coming out of Hollywood are not historically accurate, nor are they intended to be. Scholarship always takes a backseat to drama and entertainment. So although these movies are often sprinkled with some truth, they are often quite diluted with untruths. I go back to Spike Lee's Malcolm X. I thought it was good that he did dramatize the life story of Malcolm X, but as a Pan-Africanist, I was extremely disappointed in how Spike Lee left out Malcolm X, the Pan-Africanist. I mean, the movie comes on with his father preaching in front of a white Jesus. If you know anything about the Honorable Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association, we have always stood on the platform that your God must look like you. It is absolutely impossible for Malcolm X's father, being the president of a UNIA division for Marcus Garvey, giving a speech in front of a white Jesus. You didn't see Malcolm the Pan-Africanist after he broke with the Nation of Islam, went to Africa and met with many of the prominent Pan-African leaders. He didn't talk about how Malcolm was going to bring suit against America for crime against humanity. I mean, the very things that got Malcolm killed were left out of the film. You look at Glory, which is one of my favorite movies. I'm glad a movie was done on Glory, but they don't tell you that in Glory, the soldiers that volunteered for the 54th Massachusetts, and I had two cousins in there, the sons of Frederick, Lewis, and Charles, but those were free black men who volunteered to be in the Massachusetts 54th Regiment. None of them were escaped slaves. But when you watch the movie Glory, you're led to believe that all of them were escaped slaves, when in fact, none of them were escaped slaves. Even the leader, Colonel Shaw, they painted him as some benevolent white man who cared about black people and wanted to end slavery. Yes, it's true. He did die in the Civil War, but he didn't die for black people. He died to keep America a united country. He couldn't stand black folks. And when he would write home to his parents, he would use all kind of derogatory language to describe the African troops, over whom he had to serve as commander. And then we come to Harriet. What disgraced me the most about Harriet, because she's a very close hero of mine. I go to her gravesite almost every year up in Auburn, New York. But what bothered me about this is they took the opportunity to exploit Harriet Tubman's memory to push a feminist agenda that was aimed at attacking the collective character of black men. They used that movie to attack black masculinity. Why was the black slave tracker, who did not even exist in history, he did not exist in Harriet Tubman's life story, but yet they created this fictitious Negro, made him the most black female disrespecting person in the whole movie. His character was even more repulsive than the slave master himself, who was actively hunting Harriet down. And then he had the nerve to kill a black woman in the movie. Why would you include a scene in a movie about Harriet Tubman, based on 19th century America, where the slave tracker kills a black woman when that never happened in real life? And then he tried to kill Harriet Tubman, but she was saved by her white slave master. Every black man in the movie had a defect. They even showed Frederick Douglass in the movie, not saying one word to Harriet, looking at her like he was totally repulsed by her presence, when the truth of the matter is they had an extremely close relationship, and some people would even hypothesize that one of the reasons they didn't get married, Harriet and Fred, is because it was believed that they may have been first cousins because he escaped from Talbot County, Maryland, and Harriet escaped from Caroline County, Maryland, and they were only one county away. So there is a theory that Harriet and Fred may have been cousins, which I hope is true because that would make me a blood relative of Harriet Tubman.
Wow.
Oh, wow. All right. Well,
And just to finish up, and how do you feel about what the youth are following? The Lizzos, Tiffany Haddish,
Oh, my God.
Cardi B, etc. How do you feel about that?
If I were president of Black America, and I do think we need a president. I do. We need a black president. We need a black pack. We do. We do. If I were president, no child under 10 would have a cell phone.
thank you. Oh,
If
my
they
God.
needed one, it has to be the traditional flip phone. Excuse me. It cannot be a smartphone.
Just
Because right now, our children have unbridled access
Yes.
to any and all content under the sun. That is dangerous to a developing mind.
Yes.
You're taking the most impressionable stage of human growth, and you are allowing unbridled access to the permanent unconscious of black children. That is not good. It is dangerous, and all of us are guilty of child abuse by allowing it.
Dr. Umar, I had another question, and I'm going to ask that question because when you brought up media, that was a great segue. But I'm having this issue right now. We talked about it before last time. My daughter's father wanted her to have a phone. And I managed to keep the two oldest ones from having phones until they were 15, 16 years old. My oldest daughter, she had a phone, but, would lose it or whatever. And I would get mad about it because, of course, it's a phone, but it actually didn't bother me as much because guess what? You ain't got a phone. You have no access to certain things. You could reach me. I didn't have a phone when I was growing up, and I had to find my mom and my dad, and that's the way that was. My son had to go through the same thing, but my daughter's 11. She got her phone because her father was hell-bent on her having a phone. I said, why can't she have a flip phone? And he was so concerned with her being bullied in school that he got her this phone, and somebody ended up stealing the phone like right after her birthday. She was bullied anyway when they went back to school because the kids were mad that the phone was taken, and so there was harder restrictions put on them having the phone. They have to turn their phone in when they go into the school. But my thing with her, and we're at it right now. We're at it right now because I'm like, you can watch anything, you can look at anything, you can listen to anything. Some of the music, the TikToks. People, if y'all don't know what TikTok is, go on your kids' phones, look at their Snapchats, look at their TikToks. You should have access to every app on their phone. You should be able to grab their phone and look through that phone whenever you feel like it and be able to monitor all their messages because there's some stuff that's going on. There's a wonder why kids get pregnant in 10, 11, not that it wasn't happening before. There's a wonder why kids are in drugs and selling their bodies and performing oral sex with each other. It's on the phone. It's in social media. And I am having this huge issue right now with my 11-year-old. Her attitude, I love her. She's sweet. She's wonderful. She's great. She's very smart. But the kids and the attitude, I see it as a part of it is a direct result of this cell phone. Direct result. And I cannot appeal to her father to understand the way that I understand because I'm seeing it every day. You understand what I'm saying? But parents, when you're not living in the same household, the parent that has the child is the one that sees these things every single day and they can speak to it. And when they speak to it, listen. What say you, Dr. Umar, about that? How do you deal with that?
Well, I totally agree with it. And, at FDMG, we will allow the children to bring these phones in school, but they must be turned off during school. And I think that one of the biggest problems we have in America's public and charter schools today is that children are, in fact, allowed to keep cell phones on them. It is an extreme distractor. I think cell phones have become the greatest deterrent to academic focus and improvement because when we were growing up, there were no cell phones. We did have a TV, which got turned off at certain times so you can do homework and so you can read and have quiet hours. But now The cell phone never goes off. So everyone is competing with the cell phone for our children's minds, and it's not healthy. I look at the learning disability and the prevalence of reading disabilities in public school. I can almost guarantee you that 40% of the kids who are being referred for reading disabilities don't have them, and what they have is a cell phone addiction disability. When they should be home reading, when they should be home studying, when they should be in the classroom paying attention, they are on that phone.
Talking about they bored. Oh my goodness. So okay, with that said, thank you for addressing that. Gayle King, how do you feel about the whole controversy surrounding Snoop Dogg, Gayle King, and rest in peace Kobe Bryant and the 9 that passed? How do you feel about that? Do you feel a way about it? And what do you have to say?
Gayle is doing exactly what a black female bourgeoisie gatekeeper is supposed to do. She's showing loyalty to the slave master by trying to destroy the character of all the alpha male slaves. That's exactly what she's supposed to do. And she's very loyal and unapologetic in doing it. I am not surprised. I do not like it, but I am not surprised. That's exactly what, she's supposed to do. Now, what's going to be interesting is whether or not her and Oprah turn on their friend Harvey Weinstein and do a surviving Harry Weinstein, since he just got convicted of rape yesterday or today. So it's going to be interesting to see if they out him, because you're outing people who have not even been convicted of anything. How about you try outing someone who has? So I'm waiting to see what happens. See, the issue, the outing isn't appropriate. It's not. Because black men are constantly under attack as it is. We don't need any more criticism against the black male character because we're criticized every day of our life and existence. But how do you not do the same thing? Where was the expose on Kevin Spacey? Where was the expose on Ben Roethlisberger of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Where was the expose on Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, who was filmed? He was filmed on tape receiving sexual favors, from an illegal female source. And then the judge conveniently threw the tape out. The only evidence that could incriminate him, the judge threw it out and said the reason why you can't consider the tape of Robert Kraft receiving sexual favors from a hired sex servant is because there's other people who were taped and you did not have their permission to tape them. How convenient, Judge. So when that went out, the whole case against Robert Kraft went out. Why no expose on none of the white men who are being charged and accused of the same crimes? Why only focus on black folks? Because that's the only thing you're allowed to do, is destroy your own.
And was Snoop Dogg out of line, or...
Snoop Dogg was not out of line. But Snoop had to apologize. Because as you know, the feminist movement is extremely powerful. The feminist movement is extremely powerful.
Yes, it is.
And although Snoop is in the twilight of his career, he's still a young man with a lot more to go. Very charismatic. A lot of opportunities are going to come up for him in media and in Hollywood. And if he did not apologize, the black feminazi would have destroyed him, his life, his character. They would have dug up everything from his past. They would have outed him. So he had no choice, because black people have allowed the feminist movement, the gay movement, the multicultural movement, the immigrant movement to outplace the black power movement.
I had a sister call in last week, Dr. Umar, on this particular topic, and she had an interesting point. Her point was that with Snoop Dogg saying what he said, it's motivating our children to behave that way towards their
to be
elders.
Disrespectful.
But I disagreed. But I wanted to, and I want to hear your take on that.
But before you go into your take on that, Dr. Umar, let me just say, I am not saying that he does not have the right to disagree. I'm not saying that he doesn't have the right to be mad. I'm saying the manner in which he came out and the language in which he used against Gayle King is disrespectful and degrading. Now, his music, a lot of his music is disrespectful and degrading towards women. Prior music was disrespectful and degrading towards women. So we get that. But when our kids kids are listening to this stuff and they have access to it. Access. And our men are so easily manipulated, a lot of them, by the things that our stars say. When our stars come out and turn around and say stuff like that, then they're in the street and they get that anger that Snoop Dogg had, and they start, oh, you dog face this and you this, that for a female that disagrees with them or does something they don't like. This is just more of the same.
I understand where you're coming from, and I do see the relationship, and I think your perspective is largely valid. On the flip side, though, I largely agree with you, but there's 25% of me that has to push back in saying that Gayle King is not an upstanding, loyal member of the black community. And this was not just one mistake or one occurrence. She is on a campaign to destroy the character of any popular black man who has been accused of doing anything, even without credible evidence. So viewing her as an enemy of the black male, I can understand Snoop's anger. You're attacking a dead black man. Kobe Bryant is not here to defend himself. And if you wanted to have that conversation, why not have that conversation well after Kobe has been laid to rest? You don't have that conversation at this point in time. You don't do that. You never see white folks do that. You never see them attack the credibility of one of their heroes post-mortem right after they transition.
No,
it was wrong and it was unacceptable, especially given the fact that there's enough white women who are already trying to poke holes in the legacy of Kobe Bryant based on those unproven sexual allegations. It didn't need to come from a black woman. So I can understand his anger as a black man, seeing a prominent black woman constantly and repetitively do the work of the white power structure. So I do largely agree with you, but 25% of me still validates the response.
Ashe.
Fair enough.
And I just want to ask a question, Dr. Umar, because I think as we're talking about psychology and, you know, our psyches and how we're conditioned, this is something I've posted about in the past before to our brothers and sisters. When you look at like Malcolm X after his death, when you look at Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin, is it the media's intent to instill more fear in us by showing us dead in these gruesome poses? Because I rarely see white people in these poses after they've transitioned. But when we're in those types of situations, it's commonly displayed to us.
It's like
Is there a theme with that, or is there a reason why they do that?
Yes, and I totally agree with you. Now, when Robert Kennedy was murdered, they did show a photo of his corpse. When JFK was murdered, they did show a photo of his corpse, but they did not parade it the way they parade the corpses of murdered black males. You are absolutely right. And I believe the reason they constantly show the images of the corpse of murdered black men is twofold. Number one, they want to quench the European thirst for black death and blood. That's number one. To show the Europeans we got one. Okay? So you can be, at peace that we are continuing to rid ourselves of the black menace. So that's one side. To quench the thirst of the European for black extermination. On the other side, it is just what you said. To condition the collective unconscious of black people to never rise up and push back against white authority. Because you'll end up like King. You'll end up like Malcolm. You'll end up like Fred Hampton. You'll end up like Trayvon, Michael Brown, Freddie Gray. Without Medgar Evers, without question, those images serve a very potent conditioning factor for the consciousness of black alpha males. Don't you dare try, or this will happen to you as well. Right. In fact, let's go back a minute. When we spoke about the movies, I thought you were going to ask me about Queen and Slim.
Oh yeah. Hey, we went there last week, so definitely the door is open. I saw a lot of innuendo in that movie.
Queen and Slim was? To me, Queen and Slim was the white power structure's way of telling black people that although you're getting tired of police killing your young men, you better never, ever get the idea in your mind that you're going to alter the narrative of what's supposed to transpire during a routine police stop. Because in Queen and Slim, she decided to alter the narrative of what is supposed to happen during a routine police stop. And she decided to defend her man and took the police officer's life. Black people in that moment felt a degree of vindication. And the whole movie was about building up your vindication, building up your vindication, building up your vindication. And then at the very end, they get betrayed by a coon. And right before they fly out of the country, Assata Shakur style, because I do believe this movie was Assata Shakur's biography retold with an ending that the white power structure wish it would have had. And I believe the purpose of that movie was to lift us up with the belief that we could push back against police genocide and then kill it in the last moment by seeing both of the protagonists murdered down before our eyes. That movie was to kill the revolutionary spirit of black people who are considering changing the narrative against police genocide.
And two parts in that movie that I'd like to address. Number one is what I want black people to know is that the executive producers on that film are all white. Number two, it was almost impossible to think that a young black boy would walk up to a black police officer and shoot him in the head. I've never heard of anything like that before. Was that sort of like some BS to you, or do you think that's possible?
No, it was BS. And I think the reason they had the boy do that is because they needed, remember now, white people are never supposed to look like the villain, ever.
Right.
Even when they are the villain, the narrative has to be twisted in such a way that they become the victim.
Yep.
So even though, she murdered a police to defend her king, most people would consider that justifiable homicide because he was innocent and not trying to harm the police. So guess what? The police was the villain. It was justifiable homicide. We can't let that narrative fly. So what we're going to do is show a little child murdering a police officer. And the purpose of that particular scene, because remember, all content has intent. Anytime you watch a movie, all content has intent. And the purpose of that particular content, a little innocent black boy murdering a police officer, was to repaint the image of the black male as a violent, uncontrollable offender.
Right.
So what they were trying to do was justify the white police officer in the beginning of the movie attempting to kill the brother. In other words, they were saying, this is why he was going to kill him. Because you people are groomed and raised to be killers. So even if a sweet little, cute little 8-9-year-old boy can kill a white police officer, imagine what a full-grown black male adult can do. That was rewriting the narrative to let people think, wait a minute, we don't just go around killing black people. You have to really see what these people will do. They're like animals in the jungle. That was to justify police genocide. That was, in fact, that scene is one of the most powerful in the movie because it justifies police violence.
Right. And this is what I say when Gayle King is continuously condemning us as black men. They're painting this image that we're these threats to, society.
Exactly.
So it emboldens white men and or police officers to want to do harm to us and or white women or coons in general.
I say our own people just looking and saying, see, this why because Gayle King said, and this why because Gayle King said.
With that movie, I considered that movie, because I did a little review on this show, I considered that movie to be one of the most dangerous black movies I've ever seen. And they put the face of the lady who wrote the movie and this director in front of us to give us this impression that all of this energy is coming from them. But in the back scenes, in those executive producing offices, that's where the story is really confirmed back there in those dark places we don't get to see. So
that was one of the most powerful propaganda films I've seen.
Yeah.
In recent, from a propaganda standpoint, that was stronger than Harriet. That was stronger than almost any other propaganda film of the past decade, because you can see the deliberate intent. We're going to deliberately engineer this movie to make black people think they can fight back against us. And in the very end, we're going to reassert our narrative that white supremacy is invincible. And then we're going to paint the image again for white folks or anyone else who's unclear as to why police go around killing blacks by putting a little innocent black boy in here killing a police officer.
That's right. So Dr. Umar Johnson, everybody, will be coming to New Haven, Connecticut, Saturday, April 11th, 2020. That's this year from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. It's titled the Black Parent Psychoacademic School Rights Training Conference in Bethel AME Church. It is important training ever for black parents of public and charter school students. So Harvard folks, get on down there. It is located at 255 Goff Street. That's Goffe Street, zip code 06511. For more information, please call 203-881-6165. And just to keep in contact with the whole movement itself, and if you still want to go down to New Haven on April the 11th, you can always go to drumarjohnson.com for updates. And the additional number is 8444. Once again, that's 8444 Dr. Umar. All right, sister, go ahead.
And let me also say, because you guys, now have listeners all over the world by virtue of your website, I will be speaking this Thursday at Wayne County Community College in Detroit, Michigan.
Ooh.
It is a free event. The college is bringing me in. It's Wayne County Community College for the annual Black History Month keynote address, and that's from 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. at 8200 Outer Drive in Detroit, Wayne County Community College this Thursday.
That's awesome. Thank you. I was just going to say that I would hope that people, after hearing this conversation, when they are taken in the movies, when we are looking at movies, that we take it in with a grain of salt, but that also we're able to switch something in our mind state that tells us to not swallow the narrative and to really, stay true to that anger that you feel. I'm not saying run out and do a bunch of foolishness. I'm not saying that. But that anger that you feel when you see the police brutality, don't take in all those negative images of black people dead on the street looking like animals, but keep that anger so that you can continue to fight.
And I want to encourage people to watch some of Dr. Umar's older videos, because you've spoken about this before, Dr. Umar, how we watch the television, and we're just soaking in information. And you also pointed out how FBI and CIA also work on a lot of those films as well to help with the psychological part of how movies are presented to us and how we view the narrative and all those various aspects of film. So definitely check out Dr. Umar is the bomb, man. I've learned so much from Dr. Umar. It's not just the school movement. Dr. Umar has a plethora of knowledge,
information
that I've learned from. He's one of my favorite scholars, so that's why I enjoy having him on the station. And we were proud to meet you when we met you down in was it Bridgeport?
Yep.
We were in.
Yep.
So
Yes, sir.
and is there anything else that you would like to educate the folks on about? Because our parents don't really understand the nature of these technologies and films. Is there anything else that you could share that from a very simple point of view that they can walk away with tonight?
Well, you just reminded me to also announce to the listening black public that I'm going to be starting a new subscription-based podcast. I've never had a podcast, but now I'm going to start a subscription-based podcast where I'm going to be putting out all original content, audiobooks, seminars, conversations, and talks never before heard or seen on Instagram, Facebook, radio interviews, Breakfast Club. It's going to be all original content, brand new, up-to-date stuff. And anyone who's interested in subscribing to the Dr. Umar podcast, you can do it on my website. Go to drumarjohnson.com, scroll all the way to the bottom, and you will see subscribe to the podcast. They can also email me or text me for the link as well. And the reason I'm doing the podcast is because, YouTube, they would never allow me to have a page. Facebook often strikes some of my videos. Instagram will remove them. It's difficult to keep, unapologetically African content out in cyberspace.
Yeah, I noticed some of it has been removed.
I can control my own narrative.
Yep, I noticed some of it has been removed. So I'm glad. I'll definitely subscribe folks, definitely subscribe. Dr. Umar is one of our great scholars. We need to respect him. And one thing I like to share with folk, Dr. Umar, even if they don't agree with everything you say, your movement is way more powerful than things they disagree with. And I really wish they can put their differences to the damn side for a minute.
That is a great misconception, too, because people, when I meet people, like, they'll tell me, hey, I follow you, I support you, I don't agree with everything. Why did you feel the need to tell me you don't agree with everything? I don't expect you to. You're a human being. When you go to a restaurant, you don't like everything on the menu.
Nope.
When you watch a movie, you didn't appreciate every scene. It's within human nature to disagree on some irrelevant points. My mission is not to make you a Ifa Tunde robot. That's not what this mission is. My mission is to make you think. To make you think. As I always say, we don't have to agree on everything. We just have to agree on certain things, which is why I always say I can work with somebody from the Nation of Islam, even though we differ ideologically. I can work with a Hebrew, a Moor, a Nawafian, even though we disagree ideologically. And you know why I can work with them? Because at the end of the day, if you're truly about black liberation, what keeps us together should far outweigh what keeps us apart.
Yes.
Only a disingenuous person will use a difference of opinion as an excuse not to unite with another brother or sister.
And with that being said, Dr. Umar, as we have about 8 minutes left on this show, I would like to let you close, and I would like to let people know how they can donate and follow you and anything that you would like to share, so that they'll be informed of anything that's going on with Dr. Umar Johnson.
Absolutely. For those international listeners, because you may have some, I definitely posted a meme for today's interview on all three of my social network platforms. So I will be in South Africa. I will be keynoting the Hector Peterson Memorial event. Hector Peterson was the young South African boy who was the first to be murdered during the 1976 student uprising in Soweto. If you saw the movie Sarafina, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'll be there on that anniversary, June 16th. I will be in Amsterdam of the Netherlands over in Europe, July the 4th. I will be in the Bahamas, speaking at a conference in the Bahamas in May. And I will also be, I'm missing one other international engagement, Senegal. I will be in Senegal in April, I believe it is, for Africa Week in Dakar, Senegal. So those are the 4 international engagements I have right now. Again, folks can follow me, Dr. Umar Johnson, on Instagram and Twitter, the website, Dr. Umar Johnson. If you need to email me directly, DRUMAR Johnson at yahoo.com. If you need to text me directly, 215-989-9858. But the most important thing going on right now is the FDMG restoration project. We're trying to restore the smaller of the 2 buildings, which is the Honorable Marcus Garvey building. That's the one we're focusing on. We're not focusing on the Frederick Douglass building. That's the much larger building. We're going to need more money to tackle that. But if we can get the Garvey building up, we still have 12 classrooms. We got our 2 bathrooms. We got our computer room. We got our small gym. So please, brothers and sisters, please donate, because these bills are not inexpensive. The quotes that I'm getting for every project are well over $100,000, and that's on top of a county and city tax bill. So again, $ FDMG School on your Cash App or P.O. Box 9634 Wilmington, Delaware. And let me also say that I'm going to be hosting a monthly after-work social for Black conscious professionals. It's going to be in Wilmington, and I think we're going to have the first one in April. So I know brothers and sisters are all across the country, but if you're ever able to make your way to Wilmington, it's going to be the first Tuesday of every month, I think it is. It's going to be called First Tuesdays with Dr. Umar, where conscious Black professionals can come together, no sneakers, no jeans, and there's going to be presentations. You can network, meet other people you're trying to build your business with. It's going to be food. It's going to be drink. drinks. It's going to be a very upscale, professional environment, and it's only 20 minutes from the Philadelphia International Airport. So I'm looking forward to building that up because I get a lot of conversation from people who say, listen, Doc, we know you grassroots, we know you down in the trenches, but you still got to come up a little bit and do something for the professionals because we feeling like we don't matter because our pants ain't sagging and we ain't got a red, black, and green tattoo. So I'm trying to wake them up and bring them into the movement before they get drafted by the boule.
All right. And last but not least, I have this one question that I meant to ask earlier. In an ideal world, if you could envision your dream to come true, what does that look like in the next 3 to 5 years?
It would be a FDMG campus that is surrounded and is the centerpiece of a much larger independent Black Wall Street community. And that Black Wall Street community with the school as the center would be replicated all over the world. My goal for the remainder of my life, however long the Lord gives me, is to build FDMG Black Wall Street communities all over the world. I'm already getting messages from brothers and sisters who, and once the school is open, their family is moving to Delaware. They said, Dr. Umar, this is too important. I got 3 boys. I'm moving to Delaware. I already know people who have bought houses. They've already bought their house, and they're just waiting. So I anticipate that Wilmington, Delaware, which is already predominantly Black, they're just not independently Black, and it's not Black empowered, that we're going to make Wilmington, Delaware the first modern Black Wall Street. And then we want to take it all across the country and all across the world.
All right. So with that being said, that is the great legendary Dr. Umar Johnson here. We'll continue to give more information about his initiatives and movements throughout the world. Again, he is coming to Connecticut on April the 11th. So make sure you go to drumarjohnson.com, get those tickets, get registered, and get down there and learn something that you can bring back to the community and share with the community so that we can help our children move forward towards their goals and objectives in life. And we can create these great brothers and sisters who will be great kings and queens that we can be proud of when we're old and gray. All right. So with that being said, brother Umar, it is a great pleasure to always have you here on 89.9 Cute FM. I appreciate your time because you don't ever have to do this for us, our little small state of Connecticut. So we appreciate and value you calling in and giving us your intellect, your thoughts, and your vision for us as your people. And I thank you for all that you do.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Dr.
you, King,
Umar.
and thank you, Queen.
All right, brother. So
welcome.
you be very safe, and we will be donating as much as we can. All right?
Absolutely.
I know I will. I get my check this week.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right, brother. So have a good night.
Sir. Be
Take
blessed.
care, Dr. Umar.
Peace.
Peace and love.
All right.
Oh, wow, we got 2 minutes left. That was an awesome interview. I enjoyed that. And I'm always grateful when he calls in, and I really appreciate the transparency and the fact that he was willing to address some of the things that were very heavily negative in the community concerning him and his character.
Yeah, and I think that's that detracting spirit. I mean, like he said, we don't have to agree on everything, but we need to agree on certain things.
Yeah.
Like the upliftment of our people, I agree. Move on from there.
Yeah.
Come to the table with what you got that you can work with and leave all that dumb-ish over
to
there.
The side, right. I like what he had to say when he said, what keeps us together should far outweigh what keeps us apart.
Yeah.
And that's my takeaway, from all of it is, and even in our private lives, what keeps us together as a people, as family, as lovers, as friends, should far outweigh what keeps us apart.
All right, family. So with that being said, I'll let my sister do her quick closeout. We only got a minute.
I know we have a minute, but I just want to really give a quick shout out. We didn't expect this interview to go so long. It was great. But I want to shout out Chelu, who did the hashtag The People gallery opening at Art Space 555 Asylum Avenue in Hartford. It was amazing this weekend. She has beautiful artwork that is up in there with a collective of artists. Hopefully we'll get some of them on as the weeks progress.